Hey everybody, my name's Chris and I'm the founder of Luki Bike Adventures, and today I wanted to complain to you about this bike right here and other bikes like it and just kind of give you a bit of a warning. This is a very inexpensive Huffy Trail Runner 26-inch mountain bike. It's not really a mountain bike, and that's why I have an issue with it. I don't have an issue with the fact that it's cheap. It's $168. That's, in this economy, that is super cheap. But I don't have an issue with that. Like, I've had a lot of bikes in my life, and only one of them cost more than maybe 200, I think $250 was the most I spent on a bike for myself up until just a few years ago. And then I bought I think a $1,500 bike. I got it super cheap though. It was supposed to be more than that, I think, and I got it clearance or whatever. It was like a previous year model. But at any rate, that's beside the point. For my son, I don't buy him expensive bikes. His most recent bike was an $800 bike, but I made him earn that. He had to do certain things to earn that bike. He had to learn how to take care of his bike. He had to learn how to fix his bike. He had to put in a certain number of miles. He had to actually go mountain biking and accomplish certain things on obstacles and certain number of miles and all that. And then he earned that bike, because at that point I knew that he actually cared about biking. He knew how to take care of that bike. He knew what bikes, the value of the bike, and could appreciate it. But up until then, I was buying him $100 bikes, especially for a kid. They just trash them. They outgrow them. They throw them down, derail your side down every single time. I don't have any. I'm not going to hold it against anyone for buying a cheap bike for their kid or even themselves, depending on what their use case is. So the issue is not that it's cheap. If you get a cheap bike and you actually ride it and enjoy it, wonderful. I think that's fantastic. I've got nothing against that. The issue is that this bike is pretending to be something that it's not, and that is a lie, and it's manipulative, and it's potentially dangerous. They're saying that this is a mountain bike. They're calling it a full suspension mountain bike, ages 12 years plus. And some of the language that they use in the marketing for it on the website is one great bike designed for the ride and performance you deserve. They must not think you deserve very much. Skipping ahead, smoothly handles whatever terrain you choose to explore. The dual suspension creates a very responsive ride, whether you choose an exhilarating ride on the trail or a more relaxed ride through the neighborhood. Again, it talks about performance ride. The linear pull brakes provide consistent, dependable control. Let's see, what else? They talk again about mountain bike pedals have the right amount of grip. The brakes have superior performance to every ride, blah, 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 blah. But over and over again, they talk about performance, different terrains, calling it a mountain bike. Let's see, the suspension response you need on trails, paths, or neighborhood roads. So now, if I'm looking at, this is the second time that I'm reading it over, I can see that they don't specifically say mountain biking, and they don't specifically say like jumps and all that, but they say trails, and they call it a mountain bike, and they use words like performance and responsive and things like that. And that's just not accurate. That's not true. This is not a real mountain bike. And if you were to buy for your teenage or preteen kid, or even for yourself, because this is actually, it's a 26-inch, it's a women's bike, so adults, this is definitely an adult size, an adult or a bigger kid size bike, and you decide that you want to take up mountain biking, or your kid says, mommy, I want a mountain bike, I want to go with my friends, and I want to be a mountain biker, and I want to go on the trails and do some jumps and tricks and all that, and you buy them this bike at Walmart for $168, it's not for that. And if your kid tries to use it that way, best case scenario, it's going to break. Worst case scenario, they're going to get hurt. I don't have the manual for this because I got it used, but I'd be willing to bet if it has a manual and if you actually read it, it'll say not for use on jumps, not for use on, whatever I've seen that where they'll tell you basically you can't use it as a mountain bike. It's just like mountain bike style. So like This would probably be fine, like with this type of suspension. Maybe if you're riding on mostly level ground and you're in your neighborhood, perhaps it's like a dirt road, or you've got like some gravel or something like that. Maybe there's some potholes, or you're going to go up and down a curb. It's going to be perfect for that. This bike is actually fine for that, but that's not how they market it. That's not how what they're saying that this bike is used for. And the big thing to me is if you have an adult riding this bike, say they're a woman, let's say she's 150 pounds, 160 pounds, 130 pounds, whatever. And just looking at this bike, the size of the fork here, like look how, this is the size of two of my fingers. I don't have like colossal size hands. I have embarrassingly small hands, and two of my fingers can completely hide the width of this. It's not very robust. No part of this is robust or makes me think that it can handle trails. They even call it a trail runner. This is not for jumps. This is not for some tricks. This is not for high speed going down or up a mountain or going on berms or any of that type of stuff. You have a lot of forces in different directions on a bike when you're doing that type of riding, and this is not built in such a way to stand up to that. Additionally, the fork isn't adjustable at all, and you really want to be able to adjust your suspension to your weight, because it's just not going to work the way it's supposed to for somebody who's 180 pounds versus someone who is 120 pounds or someone who's only 90 pounds or whatever. The suspension needs to be adjusted for those differences. And if you're on, I'm assuming it's probably set up for somebody in the middle ground, which means that, most people aren't in the middle. Anybody on either extreme is not going to work well for them. My biggest gripe, though, is the brakes, in fact. Now, I do not have Herculean strength, but I've adjusted these brakes numerous times. I got them as good as I can possibly get them, and I can still, with just easily, squeeze this all the way, the handle's going all the way to the grip. If you can see that. And that's not difficult for me to do, and I'm only using the 3 fingers here. I can do it with 2 fingers. I don't know if I can do it with 1. I can't do it with 1. But with 2 fingers, I can get it all the way to the grip. And that is not ideal. If you're coming down a mountain, if you're going over obstacles, if you want to do an endo or, some kind of trick or whatever, you want to be able to grab these brakes and actually lock that wheel up and stop you. Like, I do not have a lot of confidence that these brakes are going to stop me when I need them to. When I'm going full speed or whatever and I need to stop to save my life or to just do the cool thing that I'm trying to do, I don't believe that I don't have a lot of confidence in that. I don't feel safe with that. And I believe it's just the materials. I think it's just cheap plastics and thin metals, and so there's flex. Now, to be fair, it does seem like the wheel is pretty locked up when I squeeze up to this point, but I don't like that I can just keep going with it. That doesn't make me feel real confident. Now, the fact that it's rim brakes, with the mountain bike, you typically want disc brakes, but rim brakes aren't inherently problematic. For a long time, when mountain biking first became a thing, everybody was using rim brakes, like that's what was available. And so that in and of itself isn't bad, but you want a stronger, stiffer metal. You want the handle itself, the lever to be solid, and you want this to really be able to lock up when you want it to lock up. You also want to be able to feather the brakes too. So you want to be able to easily manipulate this. And they're talking about, consistent, reliable control over your bike. And I'm just not buying it. I'm not buying it at all. The shifting and all that, not wonderful at all, but that is definitely less important to me as far as that's not a safety factor. That's more of a comfort of riding factor. But between the suspension, the brakes, and then just the non-robust flimsiness of the bike overall, no part of this makes me feel like this is actually a mountain bike. And that's why I don't like this, and I don't like bikes like it. I think if you are honest about what you're using the bike for, and if manufacturers are honest about what the bike is actually designed for, you can get a $160 bike. You can get a $100 bike if that makes sense. If you're going to be riding your bike just around the neighborhood on flat land, low speeds, and you're just, getting some exercise, having fun, going to the park, going to get ice cream, maybe even getting some grocery shopping done or whatever. You got a little basket, put your little doggy in it, whatever. This bike is fine for that. Having these slightly beefier tires that are going to be able to go on some grass, some gravel, some pavement, no problem. I would consider this more of like a hybrid type of bike. A hybrid bike that you got some suspension so you can maybe hit a pothole and not have too much problem with it. That's going to give you a little extra comfort in your ride. That's fine. But it's not performance. It's not a performance bike. It's not a mountain bike. It's ride it for fun on maybe some bumps here and there is what I would call this. And it's perfectly fine for that. And if that's all you're doing, if that's all your kid is doing, then buy the $168 bike. No issues. But understand what it is and what it's not, I think, is the most important thing. And I think shame on the manufacturers. They should make it clear what these bikes are and what they're for and what they're not for, and not try to trick people into thinking that there's something else. To me, this is very obvious that this is not a real mountain bike. But that's because I'm a bike mechanic and I've been riding bikes for a long time and buying bikes all the time, and I've learned this. If I were not, I don't know that I'd know that. Especially if my kid was into it and I wasn't, and they're just like, Mom, buy me a mountain bike? Santa, Santa had your elves make me a mountain bike? Santa might make this and think nothing of it and not know any better. And I don't know that is the parents' fault or Santa's fault that they don't know, that they believe the manufacturer. So I guess that's the end of my rant. Just, I don't know what else to say about it aside from that. Like I said, I don't have anything against buying these cheap bikes. Just make sure you're buying the right bike. You understand what it's actually going to be used for. And ideally, buy from a bike shop, because there you have knowledgeable, passionate people. All of their bikes most likely are going to be good quality bikes, and they are knowledgeable enough to guide you on what type of bike you might need and would work well for you if you can get away with a $200 bike, or maybe you need to go up something more expensive. I personally recommend Alpetri's Bikes in Woodhaven, Michigan. That's an awesome shop. They've got a lot of stuff, really cool people. They're an official bike shop of Luki Bike Adventures. We get all of their stuff from all of our parts and whatnot from them, and they're super helpful, been active in the community for decades. So that's awesome. Highly recommend. If you're not local or whatever, try another bike shop. Shop around. But my experience in bike shops in general is that they want to help. They want you to get into a good bike. They just like biking and care about it. And even if you don't buy one at the bike shop and you end up buying one at, say, Target for $140, take it to a bike shop or take it to someone who knows what they're doing to actually look at it and make sure it's assembled properly, because that's the other aspect of it. Just today, I was at a big box store that sells, everything under the sun, including bikes, and they had bikes there where the cable was already frayed. Like in the store, we got a frayed cable. One of them, the derailleur was completely just off. It was still connected to the bike by the cable and by the chain, but it was not connected to the frame. I don't know what was going on there. Many times I found handlebars loose and just kind of moving freely, or play in the cranks, or just cables routed all sorts of kind of weird ways. So you can buy the cheap bike, make sure it's assembled properly, make sure that somebody looks at it and that they actually use grease in the bearings and things like that, because that also happens. It just get assembled dry and then the bike is destroyed after a bit. And that's also going to do you wonders and get you better experience with that bike. So buy the correct bike and make sure it's assembled properly. And it doesn't have to be a $2,000 bike. It can be a $150 bike, but just know how you're using it is I guess, the point that I'm saying over and over again for 15 minutes. So, if that was helpful to you or interesting in any kind of way, please like and subscribe. Also, check out the links below, and you can learn all about Luki Bike Adventures and what we're doing. And check out our website. You can make a donation. You can learn about this bike. You can see more pictures and stuff of me. We've got an Instagram now, and a Facebook page, all that stuff. We're like legit doing stuff. Kind of a big deal. All right. So thanks for watching and listening to my PSA, and see you in the next video.